हेलो गाइस, आप लोग कैसे हो। मैं जीत प्रताप यादव आप लोगों के लिए नई वीडियो लेके आ गया। आज इस वीडियो में डिस्कस करेंगे कि ऑल मार्किंग सेंटर में एक्सआरएफ के क्या 100 क्वेश्चन इस वीडियो में डिस्कस करूंगा। तो जैसा कि आप लोग जानते हो गाइस, मेरा नाम है जीत प्रताप यादव। मैं एक कंसल्टेंट हूँ, हॉल मार्किंग सेटअप करवाने की कंसल्टेंसी करता हूँ और ज्वेलर का रजिस्ट्रेशन करवाता हूँ। तो गाइस, आज हम इस वीडियो में डिस्कस करेंगे कि हॉल मार्किंग में एक्सआरएफ चार से क्या क्या क्वेश्चन किए जाते हैं। एक्सआरएफ सेक्शन से टॉप 100 क्वेश्चन लेके आ गया हूँ। तो पहला क्वेश्चन है व्हाट डज एक्सआरएफ स्टैंड फॉर। तो एक्सआरएफ का है फुल नेम होता है एक्सरे फ्लोरेसेंस। एक्सआरएफ का फुल नेम क्या होता है? एक्सरे फ्लोरेसेंस। और से और इसका सेकंड क्वेश्चन है व्हाट इज द बेसिक प्रिंसिपल ऑफ एक्सआरएफ एनालिसिस। बेसिक एक्सआरएफ एनालिसिस का बेसिक प्रिंसिपल क्या है? What is the basic principle of XRF analysis? A sample is irradiated with the high energy X-ray. This causes atom in the sample to become excited and emit the secondary fluorescence X-ray of characteristic energy. Detecting and continuing counting these energy allows for the element identification and quantification. A sample is irradiated with high energy X-ray. This causes atom in the sample to become excited and emit. तो गाइस, मैंने सेकंड इसको क्वेश्चन था हमारा व्हाट इज द बेसिक प्रिंसिपल ऑफ एक्सआरएफ एनालिसिस। तो a sample is irradiated with high energy X-ray. This causes atom in the sample to become excited and emit secondary fluorescence X-ray of characteristic energy. Detecting and counting these energy allows for the element identification and quantification. Question number 2, what is the difference between X-ray and what is the difference between characteristic X-ray and the primary X-ray beam? The primary beam is a photo polychromatic, contain many energies and it is used to excite the sample. Characteristic X-ray are monochromatic, specific energy and are unique to each element emitted by the sample when is relaxed. So third question था what is the difference between the characteristic X-ray and the primary X-ray beam? The primary beam is the polychromatic, contain many energies and it is used to excite the sample. Characteristic X-ray are monochromatic, specific energy and are unique to each element emitted by the sample when it relaxed. Next question है question number 4. What are the two main type of X-ray spectrometer? What are the two main type of XRF spectrometer? Energy dispersive XRF, ED XRF are two types: energy dispersive XRF, ED XRF, and wavelength dispersive XRF, WD XRF. ED XRF is far more common for jewelry testing. What are the two main types of XRF spectrometer? There are two types of XRF spectrometer. First is energy dispersive, ED XRF, and next one is the wavelength dispersive XRF, WD XRF. So what are the two main types of XRF spectrometer? There are two main type of spectrometer: energy dispersive XRF, EDXRF, and second one is the Wavelength dispersive XRF, WDXRF. EDXRF is more common for the jewelry testing. Question number 5. What is the XRF considered a non-destructive testing NDT method? Because the analysis does not alter or damage the jewelry pieces in any way, it can be returned to the customer in its original condition. That's why it is called non-destructive testing method. Why XRF considered a non-destructive testing NDT method? Because the analysis does not alter or damage the jewelry pieces in any way. It can be returned to the customer in its original condition. Question number 6. What is the part of an atom are involved in the XRF process? The inner electron cell K, L, and M cell are involved in the XRF process. What is the fluorescence yield? The probability that an inner cell electron vacancy will result in the emission of X-ray red photon instead of an augur electron. It increases the atomic number. Question number 8. Why is the XRF bell suited for analyzing precious metal like gold and silver? Because gold and silver are high atomic number with high fluorescent yield, making them easily detectable. The matter is also surface sensitive, which is ideal for placed sample. Next question number 9. What is the typical depth analysis of XRF in gold? It is surface sensitive, typically analyzing from a few micrometer up to about 50 to 100 micron depending on the energy of the characteristic line and the matrix density. What is the fundamental parameter FP method in XRF? A mathematical method for quantitative analysis that uses fundamental physical constant, absorption coefficient, fluorescence yield to calculate composition from the first principle and minimizing the needs for math standards. Question number 11. What is the empirical calibration method? Answer is that a quantitative method that relies on calibrating the instrument using certified reference material CRM with a known composition similar to the sample to be tested. Question number 12. Which calibration method FPER empirical is more common in jewelry analysis and why? Empirical calibration is more common for dedicated jewelry analyzer because it cannot provide higher accuracy for the specific well defined alloy type carat gold, sterling silver when calibrated correctly. Now, question number 30. Name the characteristic X-ray line we use for analyzing gold AU. AU L alpha 9.7 kilo electron volt, AU L beta 11.4 kilo electron volt, and the less commonly used AUK line 60 to 80 kilo electron volt for high energy systems. Question number 14. Name the characteristic X-ray line used for analyzing silver AG. AgK alpha 22.1 kilo electron volt and AgK beta 24.9 kilo electron volt. AgL line 3 electron volt can be used but are more easily absorbed. Question number 15. What elements are typically found as an alloy in the gold? Copper Cu, silver Ag, zinc, Zn, cadmium Cd, nickel, and palladium are the elements typically found in gold alloy. What element you typically found in alloy in silver? Copper is the primary alloying element in the sterling silver, 92.5% silver. Zinc may also be present. Question number 17. What is the matrix effect in XRF? Answer is that the phenomenon where the intensity of the element's fluorescent radiation is influenced by the presence and concentration of the other element in the sample. This include absorption and enhancement effect. Question number 18. What is absorption? When the fluorescent radiation from one element is absorbed by the another element in the sample before it can be escaped to be detected. Question number 19. What is the enhancement? When the fluorescent radiation from one element or the primary tube excite another element in the sample, increasing its fluorescent yield. Question number 20. Why is understanding matrix effect critical for accurate analysis? Because failing to correct for this effect is the major source of error. Modern instruments use mathematical model in FP or empirical method are correct for them. Now question number 21. What is the single most important step before analyzing any jewelry piece? So answer is that cleaning the sample to remove dirt, oil, plating, coating and any surface contaminant. Question number 2. Why is cleaning so critical? Surface contaminant can absorb the incoming X-ray and outgoing fluorescent X-ray, significantly altering the result and leading to false low reading. Question number 23. How should a jewelry piece be cleaned for XRF analysis? Light aberration with a fine jewelry file or emery paper on a non-decorative area, followed by the wiping with a fine with a limit-free cloth and or cleaning with a suitable solvent, example isopropyl alcohol. Question number 24. What is the purpose of the beam window or aperture on the XRF gun? To define the size and shape of the X-ray beam that hit the sample, ensuring only the area of interest is analyzed. Question number 25. Why must we never point the XRF gun at the person or yourself? Answer is that because the primary X-ray beam is a form of ionizing radiation and is hazardous. Question number 26. What are the key safety precautions for using on XRF analyzer? Never point the gun at anyone. Keep finger clear of the beam exit. Use the instrument in a designated control area. Be aware of any flow, local radiation safety regulation. Question number 27. What is the purpose of instrument calibration? To establish a known relationship between the intensity of X-ray measured by the detector and the actual concentration of the element in the sample. What is the purpose of instrument calibration? To establish a known relationship between the intensity of X-ray measured by the detector and the actual concentration of the element in the sample. Next question. What are the certified reference materials, CRMs? Question. Question number 28. What are certified reference materials, CRM? Sample with known certified chemical composition traceable to international standard. They are used to calibrate and verify the accuracy of the XRF instrument. What are the certified reference materials, CRMs? Sample with a known certified chemical composition traceable to a national standard. They are used to calibrate and verify the accuracy of the XRF instrument. Next question, question number 29. What is the difference between calibration and verification? Calibration is the process of setting up of the analytical curve using CRMs. Verification is the process of checking that the calibration is still accurate by measuring a CRM different from those used in calibration and confirming the result as a within acceptable limits. What is the difference between calibration and verification? Calibration is the process of setting up analytical curve using CRM. Verification is the process of checking that the calibration is still accurate by measuring a CRM different from those used in calibration and confirming the result is within the acceptable limit. Question number 30. How often should an XRF analyzer be verified? At the beginning of each shift or the day of use, any whenever environmental conditions change significantly, as example large temperature swing. How often should an XRF analyzer to be verified? At the beginning of each shift or day of use and whenever environmental condition change significantly, example large temperature swings. Question number 31. What is a type of standard or working standard? A well characterized sample, not necessarily certified, that is used for a quick daily check of the instrument stability is called type standard or working standard. What is the type of standard or working standard? A well characterized sample, not is necessarily certified, that is used for quick daily check for the instrument stability. What is drift? Next question. Question number 32. What is drift? A change in the instrument response over time due to that factor like temperature change, detector degradation, or electronic instability is called drift. What is drift? A change in the instrument response over time due to factor like temperature change, detector degradation, or electronic instabilities. What is the purpose of instrument to stability check? To correct for a minor dip in the X-ray tube output or detector performance, often using an internal reference targets. Now question number 34. Why is the crucial to analyze a flat, smooth and representative area of the jewelry? To answer is that to minimize error caused by the surface roughness, geometry and uneven composition, a curve or rough surface can be deflect X-ray and cause inaccurate result. Question number 35. What is the analysis time or lifetime? The actual time during which X-ray are being collected by the detector. A longer analysis time generally improve precision but reduce throughput. Question number 30 is what is the typical analysis time for a carat gold measurement? Between 10 to 60 seconds depending on the required precision and instrument performance. What is the typical analysis time for a carat gold measurement? Between 10 to 60 seconds depending on the required precision and instrument performance. Question number 37. What environmental factor can affect the XRF result? Large temperature fluctuation and high humidity can affect the detector performance and electronic stability. What is the purpose of helium purge or vacuum in some XRF system? To analyze light elements like magnesium, aluminum, silicon, whose low energy X-ray are absorbed by the air between the sample and the detector. What is the purpose of helium purge or vacuum in the some XRF system? To analyze light elements like magnesium, aluminum, silicon, whose low and the detector. Are helium or vacuum typically required for gold and silver analysis? No. Characteristic line for gold, silver, copper, zinc, etc. are sufficiently energetic to pass through the air with the minimal absorption. Question number 40. What does the filter in the XRF gun do? It selectively absorbs part of the primary X-ray beam to the optimize it for exciting specific element or interest and reducing background noise. What does the filter in an XRF gun do? It selectively absorbs part of the primary X-ray beam to optimize it for exciting specific element of interest and reducing background noise. Question number 41. What is the purpose of a collimator? Answer is that the shape and to shape and the focus the X-ray beam and onto the specific spot size on the sample. What is the purpose of a collimator? The to shape and focus the X-ray beam onto a specific spot size and sample. What is the difference between mining mode and the jewelry mode on the XRF analyzer? Mining mode are optimized for analyzing raw ores and are typically less accurate. Jewelry mode use specific calibration and parameter for precious metal alloy and provide much higher accuracy for this application. Why the difference between a mining mode and a jewelry mode on XRF analyzer? Mining mode are obtained for analyzing raw ores and are typically less accurate. Jewelry mode use specific calibration and parameter for precious metal alloy and provides high accuracy for this application. What is the planning mode for layer analysis software? What is plating mode or layer analysis software? A specialized software algorithm that can measure the thickness and composition of a surface plating layer. Example, gold plating on copper and the composition of the substance beneath. Next question, question number 44. Why must you never analyze a piece that is moving? Movement during analysis blur the measurement point, lead to the inconsistent geometry and cause highly unreliable result. Why must we never analyze a piece that is moving. Movement during analysis blur the measurement point, lead to inconsistent geometry, and cause highly unreliable result. What question number 45? What should you do if a piece is too small to analyze properly? Use a small sample holder or cup designed to hold a small item like chain or ring securely and reproducibly in the beam path. Why should you do if piece is too small or to analyze properly? Question number 45. What should you do if a piece is too small to analyze properly? Use a small sample holder or cup designed to hold a small item like chain or ring securely and reproducibly in the beam path. Now question number 46. What is the biggest limitation of the XRF for jelly analysis? It is a surface technique. It cannot determine the internal composition of an atom if the surface is not representative. Example, due to the plating, coating, or surface enrichment. Question number 46. What is the biggest limitation of XRF for jelly analysis? Answer is that it is the surface technique. It cannot determine the internal composition of an item if the surface is not representative due to the plating, coating, or surface enrichment. Next question. What is the surface enrichment or depletion? A phenomenon where the surface composition of an alloy is different from the bulk due to the process like heating, peaking, or of diffusion. For example, silver can be depleted from the surface of a gold alloy. Question number 47. What is the surface enrichment or depletion? A phenomenon where the surface composition of an alloy is different from the bulk due to the process like heating, peaking, diffusion. For example, silver can be depleted from the surface of a gold alloy. Question number 48. What? How can plating fool an XRF analyzer? The analyzer will only see the plating layer. A heavy gold plated item can give a reading very close to solid gold if the plating is thick enough to absorb the X-ray from the substrate. How can plating fool an XRF analyzer? The analyzer will only see the plating layer. A heavy gold plated item can give a reading very close to solid gold if the plating is thick enough to absorb the X-ray from the substrate. Question number 49. What is a gold filled item and how does it affect XRF result? An item with a thick layer of gold mechanically bonded to a base metal core. XRF will typically only see the gold layer unless the plating mode is used for the layer is filled through. What is the gold filled item and how does it affect the XRF result? An item with a thick layer of gold mechanically bonded to a base metal core. XRF will typically only see the gold layer unless the plating mode is used or the layer is filled through. Question number 50. What element are commonly used in Chinese art as Asian low carat gold that can be problematic? High level of lead and sometimes cadmium which are toxic and restricted. What element are commonly used in the Chinese or Asian low carat gold that can be problematic? High level of lead and sometimes cadmium which are toxic and restricted. Next question. Why is it important to screen for hazardous element like cadmium and lead? Because they are restricted under regulation like REACH and CPSIA due to their toxicity. Their presence must be identified and reported. Why is it important to screen for hazardous element like cadmium and lead? Because they are restricted under regulation like REACH and CPSIA due to their toxicity. Their presence must be identified and reported. Question number 52. What is the typical detection limit for element like cadmium, lead in gold using SRF? Answer is that it can be as low as 50 to 100 ppm part per million with a good instrument and proper setup. Question number 53. What does a sum or total percent significantly less than 100% indicate? It may indicate the presence of light element like carbon, oxygen, beryllium that the XRF cannot be detected or a significant error in the calibration model. Question number 54. What does a sum or total percentage significantly greater than 100% indicate? This usually indicates a significant error in the calibration, a matrix effect that is not being corrected properly, or the analysis of unknown heavy metals. What does a sum or total percentage significantly greater than 100% indicate? This usually indicate a significant error in the calibration, a matrix effect that is not being corrected properly, or analysis of the unknown heavy element. Why might the XRF result for silver in sterling silver read slightly lower than 92.5%? Question is, why might the XRF result for silver in sterling silver read slightly lower than 92.5%? Answer is, this could be due to the surface oxidation tarnish which add oxygen to the surface layer that XRF cannot detect effectively during the result. Why might the XRF result for silver in the sterling silver read slightly lower than 92.5%? This could be due to the surface oxidation tarnish which add oxygen to the surface layer that XRF cannot detect effectively during the result. Question number 56. What is the carat value equivalent to 99.9% gold? 24 carat equal to fineness upon multiply 24 divided by 10. So now triple nine point fineness equal to triple nine divided by 1000 multiply 24 divided by 10 is equal to 23.98 kt. If the carat result is so 75% gold, 15% silver and 10% copper, what is the approximate carat values? Answer is 75% gold is 18 carat, since 24 carat equal to 100%, so 18 upon 24 equal to 0.75 or 75%. What is the non-destructive test result often called in a hallmarking context? It is a preliminary or screening result. It cannot be used as the definitive result for the hallmarking which require destructive fire assay. Question number 58. What is the non-destructive test result often called in a hallmarking context? Question is that what is the non-destructive test result often called in a hallmarking context? It is a preliminary or screening result. It cannot be used as the definitive result for hallmarking which require destructive fire assay. Question number 59. According to the standard like IS 15820, when must fire assay be performed? Answer is, on a minimum sample taken destructively from the jelly as the reference method to confirm the purity before hallmarking. According to standard like IS 15820, when must fire assay be performed? On a minimum sample taken destructively from the jelly as the reference method to confirm the purity before hallmarking. Question number 60. What is the primary role of XRF in hallmarking center? Answer is, to act as a fast, efficient screening tool to identify pieces that are obviously under carat, over carat, or contain hazardous element before sending them for destructive testing. Question number 16. What should we you do if the XRF result is borderline? Example 70.8% for 18K item. Re-clean the item, retest on a different spot, and if it's still borderline, it must be sent for definitive fire assay. Do not rely on the XRF result. Question number 61. What should you do if an XRF result is borderline? Example 17.8% for an 18K item. Re-clean the item, retest on the different spot, and if the still borderline, it must be sent for definitive fire assay. Do not rely on the XRF result. Question number 62. What is the false positive in the context of the XRF screening of gold? When the XRF indicate an item is of sufficient purity but is actually plated or filled. Of type 2 error. Question number 62. What is a false positive in the context of XRF screening for gold? Answer is when the XRF indicate an item of sufficient purity but is actually plated for filled, a type 2 error. Question number 63. What is the false negative? When the XRF indicate an item is undercarried due to the surface effects like enrichment but the bulk purity is actually correct, a type 1 error. Question number 63. What is the false negative? When the XRF indicates an item is undercarried due to the surface effect like enrichment but the bulk purity is actually correct, type 1 error. Question number 64. Which error type, false positive or false negative, is more critical to avoid in a hallmarking center? Answer: false positive hallmarking is a plated item or solid gold severely damage the credibility and trust in the hallmarking system. Question number 64. Which error type, false positive or false negative, is more critical to avoid in a hallmarking center? As false positive hallmarking, a plated item as a solid gold severely damage the credibility and trust in the hallmarking system. Question number 65. Why can analyzing a solder joint give an inaccurate result for the whole pieces? Because solder typically has a different often lower carat value than main body of the jelly to lower its melting point. What how why can analyzing the solder joint give an inaccurate result for a whole piece? Because solder typically has different often lower carat value than the main body of the jelly to lower its melting point. Question number 66. What is the Z number? Z number means atomic number of the gold. Atomic number gold is 79. Question number 66. What is the Z number? Z number is the atomic number. What is Z number or atomic number of gold? The answer is 79. Question number 67. What is the Z number or atomic number of silver? Answer is 47. Question number 68. What does LOD stand for? Limit of detection. LOD stand for limit of detection. The lowest concentration of an element that can be reliably distinguished from zero is called LOD. What does LOD stand for? The limit of detection. The lowest concentration of an element that can be reliably distinguished from the zero is called LOD. Next, question number 16. What does LOQ stand for? LOQ stand for limit of quantification. The lowest concentration of an element that can be reliably quantified with a stated level of precision. Question number 69. What does the LOQ stand for? Answer is limit of quantification. LOQ stand for limit of quantification. The lowest concentration of an element that can be reliably quantified with a stated level of the precision. Question number 70. Can XRF determine the purity of rhodium plating? Yes. Specialized XRF instrument with the plating software can be measured the thickness and composition of rhodium plating on white gold or silver. Question number 70. Can XRF determine the purity of rhodium plating? Answer: yes. Specialized XRF instrument with this plating software can measure the thickness and composition of the rhodium plating on white gold or silver. Next, question number 71. Question number 70. What is the most important quality control record for an XRF? The daily verification log showing that a traceable CRM was measured and the results were within acceptable tolerance before any customer sample were analyzed. Question number 71. What is the most important quality control record for an XRF? Question number 71. What is the most important quality control record for an XRF? The daily verification log showing that traceable CRM was measured and the results were within acceptable tolerance before any customer sample were analyzed. Question number 72. What is the acceptable tolerance for verifying a 22 karat gold CRM? Answer is that this should be defined in the labs SOP, but typical tolerance is plus minus 0.02% to 0. Plus minus 0.5% for gold content depending on the lab's requirement accuracy. What is the acceptable tolerance for verifying 22 karat gold CRM? This should be defined in the lab SOP, but typical tolerance is plus minus 0.02% to plus minus 0.05% for gold content depending upon the lab requirement accuracy. Question number 73. What should you do if the daily verification fails? That is, the result is outside tolerance. Answer: stop customer testing. Do not use the instrument. Perform troubleshooting. Check CRM. Clean. Retest. If it continue to fail, the instrument may need to be recalibrated by the service engineer. Question number 73. What should you do if the daily verification fail? That is, the result of is outside tolerance. Stop customer testing. Do not use the instrument. Perform troubleshooting. Check CRM. Clean. Retest. It if it is continue to fail, the instrument may need to be recalibrated by the service engineer. What is the common cause of sudden erratic result? Loose or dirty sample, or a contaminated beam window, or unstable environment. Example: electrical noise, extreme temperature. What is the common cause of sudden erratic results? Loose or dirty sample, a contaminated beam window, or unstable environment, electrical noise, extreme temperature. Question number 75. What should be regularly cleaned on the exterior of the XRF gun? The beam, window, aperture, and the proximity sensor if the cube using isopropyl alcohol and lint-free swab. What should be regularly cleaned on the exterior of the XRF gun? The beam, window, aperture, and the proximity sensor if the cube using isopropyl alcohol and a lint-free swab. Question number 76. Why is it important to keep the analysis area clear of other metal objects? Because the X-ray can fluorescence other metal nearby, and their secondary radiation can enter the detector, increasing the background noise and potentially interfering with the analysis. Question number 76. Why is it important to keep the analysis area clear of other metal objects? Because X-ray can influence other metal nearby, and their secondary radiation can enter the detector, increasing the background noise and potentially interfering the result. Question number 77. What does a sudden drop in a or intensity indicate? Answer is that it could indicate a problem with the X-ray tube, detector, or electronics. It requires investigation and possibly service. What does the sudden drop in count rate of intensity indicate? It could indicate a problem with the X-ray tube, detector, or electronics. It requires an investigation and possibly reservice. Question number 78. Question number 78. What is peak shifting? Question number 78. What is peak shifting? थोड़ा टेक्निकल गेल्च हो गया है. What does a sudden drop in count rate of intensity? It could indicate the problem with the X-ray tube detector or electronic. It requires investigation and possibly service. ये थोड़ा टेक्निकल ग्लिच की वजह से थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. Question number 77. What does the sudden drop in the count rate of intensity? It could be indicate problem with the X-ray tube detector or electron. It require investigation and possibly service. What is the peak shifting? What is peak shifting? When the energy calibration of the detector dipped, causing the peak of the element to appear in the wrong channel. Modern instrument automatically correct it. Question number 78. What is the peak shifting? When the energy calibration of the detector drift, causing the peak of the element to appear in the wrong channel, modern instrument automatically correct it. Question number 79. What is the peak overlap or interference? When a corrected X-ray peak of the element overlap with that of another lead, example, PBL line overlap with a arsenic K line, software deconvolution is used for resolve them. Question number 80. How how can you minimize error from heterogeneous sample? Question number 80 is how can you minimize error from the heterogeneous sample? By analyzing multiple spots on the item and over averaging the result is appropriate. How can you minimize error from heterogeneous sample? By analyzing multiple spots on the item and over averaging the result is appropriate. How can you minimize error from heterogeneous sample? By analyzing multiple spots on the item and over averaging the result if appropriate. Question number 18. What is the purpose of a method or application file in the XRF software? It contains all the parameter, time, filter, voltage, current, calibration curve needed to analyze a specific type of material. Example, 24 karat gold is trading silver. What is the purpose of method or application file in the XRF software? It contains all the parameter, time, filters, voltage, current, calibration curve needed to analyze a specific type of material. 22 karat gold is trading silver. Question number 82. Why should you never use mining or geo mode to the test jewelry? Because those calibration are not optimized for the precise analysis of precious metal alloy and will give highly inaccurate and unreliable results. Question number 82. Why should you never use a mining or geo mode to test jelly? Because those calibration are not optimized for the precise analysis of precious metal alloy and will give highly inaccurate and unreliable results. Question number 83. What is the role of operator is judgment in the XRF analysis? Critical. The operator must judge if the sample is suitable for analysis, clean, representative, interdependent, interpret the results in the context of the item construction. As an example, risk of the plating and decide if conformity testing is needed. Question number 82. What is the role of the operator judgment in XRF analysis? Critical. The operator must judge if the sample is suitable for analysis, clean, representative, interpret the result in the context of the item's construction, as example, risk of plating, and decide if conformity testing is needed. How should result be reported? Question number 84. How should result be reported? Clearly stating that method use XRF the element reported and clear disclaimer that it is a surface analysis and not a definitive bulk analysis unless proven otherwise. Question number 84. How should result be reported? Clearly distorting the method use XRF the element reported and clear disclaimer that it is a surface analysis and not a definite bulk analysis unless proven otherwise. Question number 85. Why must XRF result be stored electronically or in a logbook? For traceability, quality control, and audit process, it allows for tracking a trend and investigating and potential issues. Why must XRF result be stored electronically or in a logbook? For traceability, quality control, and audit process, it allows for tracking trends and investigating analytical potential issues. Question number 86. What training should be XRF operator receive? Training on radiation safety, instrument operation, sample preparation, interpretation of result, limitation of the technique, and the lab specific SOPs. What training should be an XRF operator receive? Training on radiation safety, instrument operations, sample preparation, interpretation of the result, limitation of the technique, and the lab specific SOPs. Question number 87. What is the typical lifespan of an X-ray tube in the XRF analyzer? Typically 3 to 5 years, but it heavily depend on the usage hours and operating condition. What is the typical lifespan of an X-ray tube in the XRF analyzer? Typically 3 to 5 years, but is heavily depend on the usage hour and operating condition. Question number 88. What is the DU or data united value sometimes shown on screen? It is a specific brand, example Thermo Fisher. Measure of the difference between the measured composition and 100% use as a quick check for light element or errors. What is the DU or delta united value sometimes shown on screen? It is a specific brand, example Thermo Fisher. Measure of the difference between the measured composition and 100% use is as a quick check for light element or error. Now question number 89. What does a high coherent or Rayleigh's scatter peak indicate? It can indicate a light element matrix or a sample that is not dense. Question number 90. What does a high incoherent or Crompton scatter peak indicate? It is more typical of organic material sample with a low average atomic number. What is does a high incoherent or Compton scatter peak indicate? It is more typical of organic material or sample with a low average atomic number. Now question number 91. How does particle induced X-ray in PIXY differ from XRF? How does particle induced X-ray emission PIXY differ from XRF? PIXY uses a beam of charged particle, example photon, to excite the sample instead of X-ray. It can be more sensitive but require a large expensive accelerator and is not portable. How does particle induced X-ray emission PIXY differ from XRF? PIXY uses beam of charged particle, example photon, to excite the sample instead of X-ray. It can be more sensitive but require a large expensive oscillator and is not portable. What is the advantage of the micro XRF system? It can focus the X-ray beam to a very small spot, tens of micrometers, to analyze tiny feature of the inclusion. What is the advantage of micro XRF system? It can focus the X-ray beam to a very small spot, tens of micrometer, to analyze the tiny feature or inclusion. Question number 93. What is the fundamental parameter method main advantage over empirical calibration? It can be analyze a wider variety of unknown alloy type without needing a specific calibration for each one. Question number 93. What is the fundamental parameter method main advantage over empirical calibration? It can analyze a wider variety of unknown alloy type without needing a specific calibration for each one. Question number 94. What is the main disadvantage of the FP method? It can be less accurate than well-tailored empirical calibration for a specific common alloy type. It can be less accurate than a well-tailored empirical calibration for a specific common alloy type. Question number 95. What is the international standard provide guidance for the use of handheld XRF? What is the international standard provide guidance for the use of handheld XRF? ASTM E2926 standard practices for handheld X-ray fluorescence spectrometry system. What does BIS stand for the Indian context? Bureau of Indian Standard. Question number 96. What does BIS stand for in the India context? Bureau of Indian Standard. Question number 97. What question number 97? What Indian standard govern the operation of the hallmarking center? IS 15820 2024 requirement for operating of gold and silver SIN hallmarking center. What Indian standard govern the operation of hallmarking center? IS 15820 2024 requirement for the operation of gold and silver SIN hallmarking center. Question number 98. According to BIS, can XRF be sole method for determining purity of hallmarking? No, it is strictly a screening tools. The definitive method must be fire assay as per IS 141. Question number 19. According to BIS Act, XRF be the sole method for determining purity for hallmarking? No, it is strictly a screening tool. The definitive method must be fire assay as per IS 141. Question number 99. What is the minimum number of the pieces to be sampled from a lot of fire assay as per IS 15820? A minimum 10% of pieces of minimum number of as defined by the statistical sampling plan. Question number 99. What is the minimum number of pieces to be sampled from a lot for fire assay as per IS 15820? A minimum of 10% of pieces of minimum number as defined by the statistical sampling plan. Question number. What is the ultimate responsibility of the XRF operator in a hallmarking? to use the tool competently and ethically to protect the integrity of the hallmark by the flagging potentially non-conforming item for definitive testing, thereby ensuring consumer trust and regulatory compliances. What is the ultimate responsibility of XRF operator in a hallmarking system? Answer is that to use the tools competently and ethically to protect the integrity of the hallmark by flagging potentially non-conforming item for definitive testing, thereby ensuring consumer trust and regulatory compliance. तो गाइस ये 100 क्वेश्चन मैंने XRF से रिलेटेड मैंने डिस्कस किया। अगर ये वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी तो प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। तो आप अगर स्क्रीन शॉट लेना चाहते हैं तो इसका आप ले सकते हैं। आप ये देख सकते हैं आप सारे क्वेश्चन आप स्क्रीनशॉट लेना चाहते हैं तो ले सकते हैं गाइस। अगर ये वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी तो प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। जैसा कि आप लोग जानते हैं मेरा नाम है अजीत प्रताप यादव। मैं एक कंसल्टेंट हूँ। हॉल मार्किंग सेटअप करवाने की कंसल्टेंसी करता हूँ, ज्वेलर का रजिस्टर करवाता हूँ, एनेबल लैब सेटअप करवाता हूँ। अगर ये वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी तो प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। जैसा कि आप लोग जानते हैं मेरा नाम है अजीत प्रताप यादव। मेरा यूट्यूब चैनल है आयुष्मान स्टडी पॉइंट अजीत प्रताप यादव के नाम से। उस पर 510 से ज़्यादा वीडियो अपलोडेड है और सारी इसिंग एंड हॉल मार्किंग से रिलेटेड वीडियो हैं। तो अगर आप अपने हॉल मार्किंग की नॉलेज को बढ़ाना चाहते हैं तो आप हमारी भी चैनल आयुष्मान स्टडी पॉइंट पर विजिट करिए और वहाँ से आप अपनी नॉलेज को अपडेट कर सकते हैं। तो ये है बेसिक क्वेश्चन जो आपको मैंने डिस्कस किया। आपको ये हम दोबारा बैक कर रहा हूँ जिससे आप अपना स्क्रीनशॉट ले सकते हैं। तो ये काफ़ी हेल्पफुल होगी। अगर आपका ऑडिट होता है आपके हॉलमार्क सेंटर में तो उसके क्या है XRF से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन बेसिक क्वेश्चन पूछे जाते हैं। तो आप तो इस वीडियो मदद कर सकती है आपके ऑडिट प्रोसेस में। तो गाइस वीडियो देखकर आप इसको क्या है लाइक शेयर सब्सक्राइब करें, ग्रुप में शेयर करें जिससे लोगों को क्या है अवेयरनेस आए गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर की हॉल मार्किंग के लिए। अगर आप एक हॉल मार्किंग सेंटर खोलना चाहते हैं तो आप हमारे से कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं। हमारा मोबाइल नंबर है 9811512894 और मेरा नेक्स्ट नंबर है 9811512895। तो हमारा ये नाम है अजीत प्रताप यादव। ये स्क्रीन पर आपका नंबर दिखाई दे रहा है। अगर आपको कोई डाउट है क्वेश्चन की क्लेरिफिकेशन चाहते हैं तो आप मुझे कमेंट करें। मैं आपके कमेंट को पढ़ूंगा और आपको रिप्लाई करूंगा। तो गाइस ये वीडियो अगर आपको अच्छी लगे तो प्लीज़ लाइक सब्सक्राइब शेयर। जय हिंद जय भारत।